It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
DJ and PK, we're joined by Alec Busse. He covers Iowa State for Cyclone Alert and 24/7 Sports. Alec, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. Good morning, Salt Lake.
So you go out to practice to watch this new coach. Most of the best impressive players follow the old coach to Penn State. Do you know anybody? Is this all brand new? Or guys just shaking hands and introducing themselves?
Pretty much. No, I don't know anyone on the team. I really don't know anything about them, if we're being honest. I probably know more than the average person if we're really trying to be truthful about everything. But no, it's been a huge roster turnover for Jimmy Rogers and Iowa State football. My kind of going line is someone's going to ask me on my morning radio show here in Des Moines a question about some position or some player on the team, and my response is going to be, I don't know. I apologize, but I don't know. I think I'm going to need until like the end of September or maybe to the middle of October to really get a good grasp on what this team is. But I think that kind of creates some fun, right? Like it's going to be a learning process for Iowa State fans. It's going to be a learning process for those of us who cover the Iowa State football program. And it's something I'm looking forward to being able to do throughout the summer. And then, of course, as we get to training camp and in the early parts of the season.
Well, Rogers had 16 starters in the portal leave him. I mean, or enter their name anyway. It was most in the nation. I guess you start with the quarterback. Obviously, Rocco was an institution there, and he goes to Penn State. But you got the kid, Rayner, from Arkansas State, right? And he's got some impressive stats, and he's got some good experience. So at least from that standpoint, it looks like it's a decent starting point.
Yeah, so I think the Rocco Beck departure was tough for Iowa State to handle. It was pretty clear, I think, that he probably was going to try and follow Matt Campbell to Penn State. And then Jalen Rayner's kind of an interesting story as he comes to Iowa State. Cyclone fans know of him more than they would most Group of 5 quarterbacks or Group of 6 quarterbacks now because they played him the last 2 years. Arkansas State came to Ames in 2024. Cyclones went down to Jonesboro and played the Red Wolves in 2025. Rayner had a better game in 2025, but he's been a 3 or 4 year starter down at Arkansas State, someone who has thrown for around 3,000 or more than 3,000 yards multiple times in his career, has kind of seen his interception numbers climb at various points, but so have his touchdown numbers. Good athlete, not someone who has the greatest size, but I think Iowa State will be able to rely on his athleticism, his ability to play make with his legs within their offense, and they're going to try and run the ball a lot this year. I think that's something that their offensive coordinator, Tyler Roll, takes a ton of pride in. If you look at some of his previous stops and the success that his called offenses have had. So Raiders an interesting fit. I don't think he is, going to come in with the heralded name value that Oklahoma State is getting with Drew Mestemaker coming from the Group of 5 level into the Big 12. But yeah. I don't think that Rayner is going to be the worst quarterback situation in the conference either.
They also have a transfer from Oklahoma State, right? Zane Flores, and he appears bigger, but is he not as good a runner? Is that the difference between the two?
Yeah, Zane Flores. He started, I think it was 7 games this past season for Oklahoma State. I mean, that was a disaster of a situation, to put it politely, I guess you could say. I think Flores is probably going to be their QB2. They haven't formally named Rayner the starting quarterback for this fall, but I would be really surprised if it's not Rayner. Flores, I think, was probably thrown into a position down in Stillwater to play and start before he was probably ready, with a program that was not set up to win, that ended up being in transition. He's got a big arm, throws a really pretty football, but still kind of coming along in his development. And I think his rushing ability is certainly one of those traits that he's still kind of flashing in a little bit, but still trying to find that consistency in as well.
I saw a number that 49 transfers are coming into the program. I don't know if that's accurate as we speak, but that's what I saw. And 15 of them were from Washington State. So you've got to brush up on your Cougar football. Iowa State becoming Washington State East to an extent, and those guys were with Rogers. So from that perspective, too, there's so much newness, but those guys, have a level of familiarity with Rodgers, so that ought to help a bit.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys are on the defensive side of the football, and I think that's where you would expect Iowa State, of its three phases, to kind of be at its strongest entering the season. Their defense is pretty good last year at Washington State. Rodgers is a former defensive coordinator, kind of cut his teeth in the FCS level at South Dakota State. His coordinator, Jesse Bobbitt, has been with him for a while on the defensive side. Bobbitt actually took over and was the coordinator, or the interim head coach for Washington State in their bowl game. But, yeah, they bring a lot of guys over on the defensive side from Washington State, particularly on the defensive line. Max Balloon, Bryson Lamb are two guys I expect to contribute at a pretty high level on the interior. Isaac Terrell is someone who was a really productive edge rusher at Washington State in a breakout season a year ago. And then there's a couple of defensive backs as well who come over from Pullman. I think you will see most of the production from the Washington State transfers be on the defensive side, contrary to the opposite side of the ball offensively, where they just brought a couple of receivers over. I just don't think that they have the depth of snaps or the depth of experience on the offensive side with the Washington State transfers as they do the defensive side of the ball.
So at running back, I can already feel the drama, and maybe you'll drop your first I don't know of the interview right here. I appreciate your honesty with that off the top. So Jaden Jackson in the spring showcase breaks off a 60-yard run immediately. Oh, maybe this is the running back, except he just left the program a couple of weeks after that spring showcase. So he's gone, and they brought in a guy from Oregon State, which I guess Washington State played him twice, so I guess you can pretty well scout him, except he can't practice. He's on a scooter, and they don't see what the injury is. So what is happening at running back? What does that depth chart look like, or you just got a bunch of names in a hat, and that has to be sorted out?
Yeah, so some recent developments there. So Jaden Jackson does depart the team. I wasn't expecting him to be a contributor for Iowa State this fall at running back. He didn't play at all during his redshirt freshman season in 2025. Jimmy Rogers kind of talked about after the spring showcase that they needed to see more from him. It just sounded like there were some frustrations with him meeting the demands of what the coaching staff asked of the players in various areas. So Jackson leaves the program. So that hurts some of their depth at that position, of course. And then yesterday they hosted, they landed, I should say, Tulane transfer Arnold Barnes, a tailback who comes in from the American Conference. Has never been ultra productive in his career. 2024 was his best season. He rushed for over 400 yards that season for the Green Wave and had all 6 of his career touchdowns. I think last season he ran for about 270 or 280 yards, I think it was. He'll give them some depth around Cam Pettaway and Aiden Flora. Pettaway is probably the guy who I would expect to be at the top of the list for Iowa State this fall. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year this past season, but he actually had more kick return yards. I think that was about 390 to 400. They needed rushing yards, which was closer to 360 or 370. Pettaway's a speedy kid, has good contact balance. Flora's a name that Iowa State fans, I think, are pretty excited about. He was retained from the old coaching staff. He had 2 really long punt returns for Iowa State last year. Both set up scoring opportunities. One came in week 1 of the season as Iowa State moved to 2-0 with a blowout win over South Dakota. And then another one was a clutch punt return in Iowa State's road win over TCU, which kind of gave them some momentum late in the season as they closed an extended losing streak there. But then Salahadin Allah, who you mentioned, was on the scooter in the spring showcase, spring scrimmage. He's going to miss the entire season. He has a torn right Achilles. And I think that's really what led to Iowa State deciding that they needed to go add some depth and bring in Arnold Barnes. But because before they added Barnes, they had just about 830 college rushing yards on their roster. And none of those were as a power conference back. Or I shouldn't say none of those. Very few of those were as a power conference back. So it's a position group that doesn't have a lot of experience. It doesn't have a lot of proven production. But I think it's an important position group for this Iowa State offense because, like I said, I think Tyler Roll, the offensive coordinator, wants to run the football quite a bit.
Well, if they want to run the football, you got to have a good offensive line. And they lost a couple of guys to transfers, Black to Nebraska. I think Bird to Penn State followed Campbell over there, obviously. And they brought in 10 new linemen. That's a lot. How do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, anytime you have to bring in that many offensive linemen to the portal, it's natural to have questions there. And I think the staff is still kind of trying to figure out what their best combination of 5 guys is across their offensive line right now. One thing that I was really, really impressed with what the staff did in their roster building in January was a scholarship balance across the offensive line. So they have 15 total offensive linemen that are classified as a senior, junior, or sophomore, but they're all redshirt players. So they have 15 total redshirt seniors, juniors, sophomores combined. So that's an experienced group in terms of just college years in a college program or snaps in general. I have some questions just about like power conference production, how some of that translates. They do have a transfer from Oklahoma, Jake Taylor, who I think will start at one of the tackle positions. They've got some guys coming in who I think would have started this upcoming season at their previous stop or were previous starters. So it's a group that I think they're still trying to have gel. I think it's a group that they also feel like right now they can play up to 8 or 9 guys. I think naturally you want to dwindle that down closer to 7 or 8 and rotate those guys if you have to, but still kind of feel like you've got clear identifiable positions for each of those players while still also kind of cross-training them. You know, offensive line is a complicated position to kind of manage and sift through as well.
That brings us to wide receiver. Is Cody Jackson the top dog there? I am impressed. This will be his 4th school in 6 years. I'm not clear looking at it why he's getting a 6th year. But from Oklahoma to Houston to Tarleton State to Iowa State, the well-traveled Cody Jackson, or is there somebody else they're really looking to there?
Yeah, he's one of the more interesting guys on the entire roster to me. So you mentioned his previous stops. He was never really productive when he was playing in the Big 12 previously, despite being a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Oklahoma didn't really produce there. Houston did not produce in his 2 seasons with the Cougars. Dropped down to the FCS level, was really good down there, and he's going to come back up to the Big 12 and see if he can produce up here for maybe a third time as a charm. He's not one that I'm banking on contributing at a high level. I think Evan Boyd, the Michigan State transfer, is one that I could see making an impact. I also think that Carter Paps, a transfer from Washington State, is one guy on the offensive side who comes over from Wazoo that I could see make an impact for Iowa State. Receivers, a unique position for this staff. During the spring scrimmage, they were rotating guys through first, second, and third string, trying to find the right fit for a lot of different guys, getting them in different positions, be it the X, Y, or the Z. And then one name that you guys may have had some familiarity with is Dominic Overby. He's from that Salt Lake area, tall kid, long kid, has really good speed. He had some nice flashes last year, especially as a deep ball threat on those go balls down the sideline. I'm intrigued to see what his next step could be for Iowa State because I think he has some of the physical tools and he had some nice flashes last year, but now that he's set to enter his 3rd year of college in 2026, I'm intrigued to see if he's able to kind of put more of that together with an opportunity to climb the depth chart under a new coaching staff.
Micah Harper we're also familiar with. I think he transferred in from Montana by way of BYU. You going to play?
Yeah, and I think his role probably was set to increase throughout the spring because Iowa State lost what, in my opinion, was their biggest addition via the transfer portal on defense, and Braden Alls. Alls was coming in from Toledo. I think he has about 9 career interceptions. Cyclones landed him in the portal after he took a visit to Indiana. Not sure how much the Hoosiers pushed for him, but clearly Indiana showed enough interest to bring him on campus for a visit. I think that injury, the ACL tear to Alls, is going to set up guys like Harper to have a bigger role for Iowa State this coming fall. And, Harper's had an interesting career arc. He played a lot in his time at BYU, more than 25 career appearances, I believe. Had an injury there that led him to missing a season, saw his role kind of dwindle, and then he transfers down to the FCS level, has a lot of success with a good Montana program at that level. Now he's back in the Big 12. So I'm really intrigued to see what type of impact he can make. Maybe doesn't always have the greatest physical size or traits, but as someone who has been productive at BYU and someone who I think Iowa State can probably rely on to give them a large number of snaps and potentially be a starter for them as well in the back end.
Iowa State last year was really defined by its defense. Didn't give up more than 21 points in any of the 8 victories. How much is it intact? I mean, the offense sounds like it's just all transfer portal. Is there anything left from that defense? Because that defense was pretty good. They weren't great, but they were pretty good.
Yeah, there's a couple guys on the defensive line. Zamir Hawk returns. I actually think he's a better fit in this new defensive scheme than the old one. He was just kind of a tweener between positions on that 3-man front that they ran under the previous coaching staff. They do retain a couple of linebackers. Carson Willick would be the one that I think is set to contribute the most. He struggled to stay healthy throughout his career, but if he can stay healthy, I know the staff feels confident in his just kind of football IQ, some of his leadership at the middle of the defense. And then in the secondary, it is a lot of new players. Like you mentioned, they do retain a couple guys. David Coffey at corner is one who I think that they're bullish on being able to start, has very limited experience in terms of on-the-field stuff, but he'll be a third-year player this season as well.
Are Iowa State fans more upset that Kalani Sitake didn't take the Penn State job or that Campbell did?
I think they're more upset that Matt Campbell took the job. I don't know if they hold any ill will to Kalani Sitake for staying. I think that this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to cover a coaching transition professionally. I did it once when I was in college as a student journalist, and I'm much more into it now, and the environment of the way it all works is much more different now. In the last couple of weeks, there's been some frustration, I think, boil over with some commentary that Matt Campbell has made on like the Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman podcast on 3 about recruiting some of the transfers to Penn State and, getting emotional, hosting them and their families for visits. He took, I think, about 20 to 25 Iowa State players with him to Happy Valley. And I think that kind of feels like to Iowa State fans that he left and then he burned the house down on the way out as well. I certainly understand why those feelings would exist, but I also would just ask the question, what is he supposed to do? It's kind of just the way the world works. And Jimmy Rogers brought 15 players with him from Washington State. I wrote on my website earlier this week that I think it's a great example of just like, don't hate the player, hate the game. And sometimes the game right now and the way that college athletics is set up, it can be really frustrating for the fan, especially when you think about all the roster turnover, particularly when there is a coaching change. I think some fans understand that a little bit better than others. I think some fans understand that once Campbell left, he didn't really owe anything to Iowa State anymore, but there's still the hurt feelings of, man, he left and he took all these players with him, and we were expecting or hoping, speaking from the thought of a fan, they thought that I think 2026 could be a really good year for them, and he left right before that. So I think that's kind of part of what cuts a little bit deeper for Iowa State fans.
The parallels aren't perfect, but you wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few parallels with Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan.
Yeah, and I know that just following it from afar that they lost some players from Utah to Michigan, a couple guys on the defensive line, but maybe not nearly the volume. And I think Morgan Scalley was able to keep some of that roster intact just because he was a coach in waiting and he was on staff. So there was a familiarity there that those Ute players had with Scalley, and there was an ability to kind of keep some continuity while also losing. The offensive coordinator goes to Ann Arbor. They lost some other players at various positions as well, but there are some similarities for sure. I think Iowa State just kind of took it to the extreme.
Yeah. Well, Alec, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us, and I guess you will still be figuring out when Iowa State plays Utah on September 26th and travels to BYU on October 10th. Maybe by then there'll be a little clarity.
Hopefully before that BYU game, I've got a good grasp, and hopefully by that Utah game when we may talk again, I'm able to give you guys some more insight on where the Cyclones are officially at. But thank you guys so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you got some good weather out there.
Alec Busse joining us. He covers Iowa State for Cyclone Alert and 24/7 Sports. DJ and PK, there's the spring football tour. Turmoil, PK. That was a program that was in a pretty good spot, at least versus the history of Iowa State football. And now got to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, and then they go ahead and get the Washington State guy, and he takes 15 transfers with him. It's just
that's the game, as Alec just said.
I know.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks.
Yep.
But you can't. People were upset about Kyle taking guys, but they had no problem when New Mexico guys came here.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Right.
And that is why Alec put it very well. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's the way it works.
Right.
Take a New Mexico quarterback, take a New Mexico wide receiver, take a New Mexico offensive coordinator.
And then you hire Ottawaya with running backs coach from Washington State.
And he brings the running back who turns into your star running back.
Right.
So
that's
the way it works these days.
You just have to look at the net, and hopefully you're on the positive side rather than the negative. But, yeah, when you have changes to your coaching staffs, this is what happens. And the Washington State coordinator went to Oklahoma and took the quarterback with him. So Washington State's over here, hey, we lost our conference, we lost our coaches, we lost our players.
And they've been.
I wonder why Ian Furness is grouchy all the time.
See? All right, well, Utes and Cougars are the 4th and 6th game for Iowa State, so you got to figure Utah and BYU should go into that game favored. That's
sure, but my thought would be that
they've had a little shakedown cruise by then.
They're not going to be a pushover. They seem to always play tough. And I know it's changed. The personnel has changed dramatically, and the coaching staff has changed dramatically. But my thought is they're not going to Oklahoma State it.
Well, that's a pretty – I would agree with that just because few teams do. That's a pretty dramatic example. I mean, Oklahoma State just really crashed and fell apart.
Even if they go 2-7, I think they can be competitive in the games. May not win them.
Right. But you won't be getting smoked.
I don't think so.
Like when Utah went to West Virginia, and there's a first-year coach, there was a lot of transfer portal, and that was, it's on the road, it's a long trip, maybe it could be tough, and that was 28-0 at the half.
Right, but they were there. Rich Rod was there because they got fired. These guys, there are some guys who stayed, and the program wasn't in a bad spot.
And the fact there's a few contributors on defense, and the defense only gave up 20 points a game last year. I mean, they were only a couple points worse than Utah and BYU, who both had good defenses. They're miles behind Texas Tech.
But I'm sure most folks in Iowa State land are going to be rooting against Penn State.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You can see that.
The way it goes.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
Morgan Scally, head coach at the University of Utah.
The hiring of Kevin McGivern, very, very innovative. When I've watched his teams, man, he loves to fling that thing around. Are you looking to open the offense a little bit?
I want to be explosive no matter where that comes from. If we're an explosive offense, but we're not physical, to me, that's the detriment to the entire team. You have to be physical, period, end of story, because a lack of physicality gets exposed at the highest levels. The priority, the premium is on physicality, and then explosive football, obviously explosive plays that could be from running the ball, from catching the ball. I think we have one of the best wide receiver groups we've had since I've been here. We want to get our playmakers the ball, but you have to play complementary football, and that's what Kevin's offense does.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's a Win Tickets Wednesday. We got a 4-pack of tickets to watch the Utah Royals take on the Denver Summit Saturday afternoon. America First Field. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. You can head out to the game. We got a game tonight, PK. Game 2, Western Conference Finals. Can it follow up the thrilling game ones we've seen? Because after I was grousing yesterday about the number of blowouts in the NBA playoffs, so many games, you didn't need to watch the fourth quarter. You didn't even watch the second half of some of these. This is Oklahoma City, New York, and San Antonio just blitzing people on the way to the conference finals. And now here we are. 2 overtime games, 1 double, 1 single, and both tied at 101. Epic. Do you feel like New York took that game away, or did Cleveland give that game away?
Well, I think you can probably meet somewhere in the middle because, we can talk about Harden and getting exploited defensively, but that's basically a 15-year story. He's never been,
never been a lockdown guy, and now he's 36.
Right.
So to me, the story is, yes, they targeted him, but now what do you do about that? Now, they did try a little bit of double teaming. That didn't work. New York hit shots, but sub him out? I mean, does he?
Who's there?
Anybody?
So just flip a coin then. Just try something for the hell of it.
If they're going to score on him on literally every possession, they could score on you and me on every possession. What do you got to lose?
How about you score?
How
about you go to your strength?
That's another problem right there. 44-11.
Yeah.
The 44 is staggering, but the 11 is staggering too. Right. About 12 and a half minutes, you're at a little less than a point a minute.
There's a lot to dissect. What happened to your offense?
Well, the 2 guys that you think are going to have the ball in the shots, Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, combined, I think they were 2 for 11 in the fourth quarter in overtime. So that's a problem. But as you pointed out, they had other guys shooting free throws, and they couldn't make them.
I don't see Harden as a primary offensive weapon anymore.
But he acted like it in the fourth quarter. He took the most shots.
Well, the other guys aren't shooting, and they're not moving. He can't pass it to himself. I mean, he's a whipping boy, so let's just dump on James Harden. That's so easy to do.
I know, but
meanwhile, you got multiple All-Stars on that team. Where were they?
Well, and I did talking about this whole series. Over the course of the series, I've always thought Cleveland had two pretty good bigs, but they do go away and disappear at times. Mobley and Allen, I don't think physically a lot of teams match up very well with those guys. They got good size. They can help you at both ends of the court, but they don't always. And I don't know why. I'm not close enough to it. I haven't heard people talk on it. I haven't watched enough of the games. But just looking at box scores, you think, how come you guys didn't take over? You're pretty good. Why aren't you giving your team a little more?
Right.
And when they do, that's why they're the 1 seed last year. That's why they won 2 playoff series this year.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of blame to go around. There's nothing you can say, this is why you lost. These are the reasons you lost.
In overtime, obviously it's a tie game, so any one possession at either end of the floor, you can say woulda, coulda, shoulda. So there are a million reasons. But it's hard to pass that you let New York score the same way. The timeouts need to be taken earlier to stop the run. That a substitution need to happen later when nothing else is working. The only thing they really tried, and there was a timeout in there, and they did start doubling more, and other guys hit shots. The Knicks had other shooters on the floor. This is why the league preaches, hey, you got to be able to shoot the three. You've got to surround guys like Brunson with shooters. That's literally the formula everybody hopes they get when they really need it.
And they got fortunate. Bridges hit a couple. Shamet hits one that bounces around.
Shamet hit one that hopped on the rim
Brunson was
times.
A star, but if those guys don't make those shots, whoop-de-freaking-do.
Shamet hit one that jumped on the rim 3 times. Right. Ding, 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 and finally goes in. And the one Landry hit with the shot clock running out, and he's dribbling away from the hoop. He's got nothing going. It looked like total chaos. It actually looked like a good defensive possession for Cleveland. And then he just turns in around and throws in a ridiculous 3. I mean, it's the kind of shot defensive coaches are like, they're going to get a shot up. Make them take a shot like that. And that's why people say it's a make or miss league, because the freaking thing went in from Cleveland's perspective.
It did go in.
Yeah.
So don't exasperate it and start making a bunch of changes and all this other stuff. Things went their way. Good for them. They're up 1-0.
You have 7 games, but if they go at Harden and it starts working again, you got to do something different.
Fine, and you got to do 20 other things different too. Simply sitting James Harden does not guarantee you a spot in the finals.
No, but leaving a guy in who gets beat on literally every position guarantees you going home before the finals.
Then how come they haven't been gone home? How come they're not home? They haven't gone home.
They haven't been gone home?
No, they have not gone home.
That was awesome.
It sucked. I got it.
No, it was a me thing. I enjoyed it.
But they haven't. They just played 2 series, and now we just discovered James Harden can't guard his shadow?
The Knicks are better than those players. Brunson is better than the star players on those teams.
Bull crap.
Yeah,
I would take Cade Cunningham any day.
How come they didn't get that matchup? Get that matchup.
And I wanted to say something stronger than bull crap.
I know. Yeah. And so maybe Brunson just, even if he gets that matchup again, maybe he won't hit every shot. Maybe that shot
that matchup again.
Maybe a shot that kisses off that upper corner of the box up there somehow doesn't drop in.
Bridges and Shamet had to do their thing.
Yeah.
And you had to suck offensively. Crack on Harden. He's worth cracking on. You traded for a 36-year-old guy who's basically out of shape.
And you thought he'd be the answer?
I don't think you thought he'd be the answer. You thought he'd help your team because it wasn't working as well with Garland.
Right.
So you did this, and Atkinson or whatever his name is, take him out, sit him on the bench, put in whomever.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? Put in Larry Nance's son.
The other thing we mentioned earlier, but we didn't mention here for people who are just listening now, is they could have been bailed out if Sam Merrill's shot goes in.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, when it started going, you're like, oh, that's going to go in, and then it spun
he's
out.
a perfect form shooter, and he had perfect form. And you're
good.
thinking in those chances, in those situations, you'll take your chances. And if they have it again, they'll take their chances again. It didn't go in, but it looked beautiful. He's only shot probably 25,000 of those.
Yeah. And he hit a couple of them earlier in the game. Yeah. You had the feeling he's got it going.
And
it
didn't go in.
He hit one right in front of their bench. it was just classic him. It was such a quick release. It was so smooth. It was so confident.
Rather than just go crazy on it, I don't want to blow it off, but I don't want to just dissect every possession and why you lost. This is the worst defeat in Cleveland Cavaliers history.
So can Cleveland... No, they still got the ELO game to go to.
I understood, but that was in a first round.
That was.
That's the point I'm making is don't over-dramatize it.
No, I think they have to take what the same thing Oklahoma City has to take is we made a lot of mistakes, and we still nearly won the game. So let's go win the next one, and let's go win the series.
Bring it in.
And just
family on 3.
Why
isn't it ever family on 2? Why do we have to go to 3? Get the family quick. Why do we have to wait? Why is it family on 3? Why not family on 2? Why not family on 1?
How about team?
No.
Good friends.
No.
Buddies
good
on
friends?
Buddies on 3.
What family
Pals
did you come
on
from?
3.
Good friends?
People who don't talk even at Thanksgiving on 3.
That.
Get yourself a plate of cold cuts. Go over to that wall and talk to the relatives you talk to.
That's a dream scenario.
And stare across the room at the relatives.
Good friends is a synonym for family. I don't know what family you grew up in.
Was there always 2 sides, or did you actually get 3?
What?
When the bickering and the grudges. Was it 2 sides to the grudge match, or were there like 3? You know, could really.
How many people were in the room?
Oh, okay, there you go. Well.
If there were 10 people, there were 10 different discussions.
I think 10
different shouting matches.
I think maxed out probably low 20s for those occasions in my family.
I told you that.
But you had more brothers and sisters in the grandparents or the parents' generation. You probably
Italian
got
Alzheimer's.
50?
You forget everything but a grudge.
You ever get to 50? 50
in
the
backyard?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we never had 50.
New Year's Eve? My Uncle Sonny's?
Yeah. I think low 20s is probably the record.
Yeah. They had a big house.
Yeah.
Like you. Nobody had big TVs then, but they had a big house. And every Christmas Eve, you went to my Uncle Sonny's, who was stranded 5 days at sea.
I never talked about it, right?
5 days at sea.
That's toughness.
In the big one.
We can talk about toughness all you want. But it's like, when you say that, like, no, I don't really want to talk about toughness anymore. Like, you can only tie that. You can't top that.
And he was...
That's crazy.
His real first name was Elmer because my grandfather was Elmer Sr.
Oh, he was Elmer Jr.
Yes, and he went by Sonny, and his son
Did the family know at the time
Elmer
he was
the
stranded?
Third. No.
Yeah, communication didn't work the same way. Yeah.
He didn't text him, hey, I'm out in the middle of the South
No, but
Pacific.
I didn't know if you heard I didn't know if there was
I
a
don't
report
believe
the
so.
ship went down or something, and then they waited to hear. I don't know.
Yeah. And so his son was Elmer the Third, and his whole life he's gone by Buddy.
Text him from the South Pacific. I don't have any satellite service.
Don't worry, I got Starlink over here. 1940, whatever.
Where's my Starlink?
You could go on my Twitter and scroll. Usually I delete most of them. Mm-hmm. I didn't delete that. His obituary, he died at 99, and probably 4 years ago. And you can read the obituary in my Twitter. I linked it. And it's got my mother's name in there as a not a survivor because she was deceased at the time. He was, what are they, preceded by, however they raise those things in there. And you'll see my last name in there.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome to This is Chase Scott and Ben Anderson.
I'd almost guarantee you Washington knows who they're going to pick. All that other stuff is just garbage. It always is. Sure. All that other stuff is, there's this person's number one this time. And this person. Washington today knows their guy.
The Jazz probably know who they would take it to
They
right
absolutely
now.
do.
I was talking to somebody and they said, the 27 and 28 draft stink. The 28 draft, that's 2 years away. They're like, it's a bad draft. Okay.
Right.
So they've known this draft is going to be good for a long time, which is A, why they traded for Jaren Jackson Jr., why they they set this up for 4 years because they knew that this was how long they had to rebuild and wanted to have a chance in the Wemby draft, the Cooper Flag draft, and this draft. It was a great section to rebuild. It's why the Jazz did it at exactly this time. It's probably why they were comfortable trading Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert when they did, knowing that this is what was coming down the pipeline, but also knowing that you probably have to end in 2026 because the 2027 and 2028 drafts stink.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, today, 10 to noon at Bar W Beef, the pop-up event at the Cal Ranch Store at 950 North Main Street in Spanish Fork. DJ and PK got the question of the day up on Facebook. A lot of you weighing in on this. BYU, Notre Dame, should they play annually? Now, you heard this talked about seriously by national guys. No real tie to either school. It's just a storyline. Notre Dame's looking for games. They can schedule September easily. It's what BYU faced when they were an independent. It's easy. But teams get into conference play, and even with the pull of Notre Dame and what it can mean for your TV contract, they have a problem filling dates. They've got 5 ACC games they can plug in there. But USC won't play them anymore, and they had to fix that pretty quickly. And they fixed it with BYU this year in October.
Yeah, it's funny how they always say, man, these schedules were made years in advance. Well, this one wasn't.
Yeah.
The COVID season wasn't. They got jobs done. You can find ways. But, yeah, I think that as the playoff expands, it waters down the regular season. And the expansion of the playoff, to an extent, has already watered it down. Yak and I were in Dallas to watch the Cougars. They lose to Iowa State. And then I'm thinking, okay, man, I got Indiana on Ohio State. I'm going to get some food. There's a Chili's by my hotel. I'm going to bring it back.
To clarify, though, you said Iowa State.
What'd I say?
You said Iowa State. You meant
Texas Tech. Big 12 championship.
Oh, we were talking Iowa State.
Yeah, anyways, yeah. Continue.
Right.
And in my mind, the Sun Devils beat Iowa State.
Now it's all clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to go back and I'm going to enjoy, and I'm going to be by myself in my hotel room, and I can eat in bed, and no one will yell at me.
Pull back the curtain, PK. Pull back the curtain.
I can order up as much junk food as I want. This is going to be awesome, right?
More sugar, more carbs. Let's go.
Whatever, yeah. I go to Chili's. Yeah, give me this, and this. And don't forget the nachos. And then I go back. And, it was a fun game, and Indiana won. But what did it really mean?
That's what's been watered down as conference title games. Because I was about to say that I was as into the college football. Now, we're sitting here with BYU and Utah just rolling through everybody except Texas Tech. They dominate everybody else. But I thought you and I and Yak and the fan bases and our listeners, we were really dialed in. It's 12 game. It's as watered down as ever. No, it isn't. We were totally into it. Frustrated because we could see that now that one of these teams is going to make it, despite the fact they were crushing almost everybody.
Which is a joke.
I know. So go to 16 or 24. Let's go.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't.
But there's going to be a consequence. So the point is then you need to build up the regular season with as many high-profile, so-called glamour big matchup games as possible.
And you need more
money. And around here, BYU Notre Dame, that's awesome.
And you need more money, and you're going to get more money for playing Notre Dame, whether it's you've scheduled them 4 times. I don't think you get 2 home and 2 away. But you might get 1 home, 1 away in a couple of neutral cities, including with Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming to the West. We talked earlier, hey, NFL domes in Vegas, Arizona, L.A., any of them. BYU could put however many tickets they can get, they can fill.
Maybe you can get
Those
Notre Dame in Ireland.
Tickets. Yeah. Go play Week 0 in Ireland for a 4th game and be the only game on TV and get a gazillion eyeballs on the game.
Yeah.
Make your TV, your relationship with TV networks a little better. Make your TV contracts a little better.
Notre Dame is big among the Irish.
And the Big 12 worked with BYU to make it happen this year. And they should keep working with them. Notre Dame's big among the Irish. That's good. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
They are.
Lyle goes the other way. He says, why would you push for a yearly game with a team when you're 2-7 against them? Not relevant, Your Honor.
For the opportunity to go 3-7.
Yes. And what happened in the 90s in a different era under different rules? Forget about it. It's different now. Even a Vegas game, you didn't have depth at quarterback. Your QB went and hurt. The wing was dinged up.
Right.
The first time he threw a ball, you're like, "Whoa, that didn't look right."
Yeah.
I've watched him throw the football. That's wrong.
Now BYU's got 5 stars lined up now until eternity.
See?
Jeez.
Jerome's on board. Lyle isn't on board, but Jerome is. Yes. Let's do it.
And I think kids like it, We want to talk about what's in the best interest of the kids. Isn't that the point? It's not Renee and the kids. We're not talking about them.
Kids want to grow up and play big games.
Yeah.
Notre Dame sounds like a big game.
And then you got an opportunity to go run out on the field, touchdown Jesus, the 4 horsemen, Newt Rockne, Eric Parseghian, Lou Holtz. I mean, the list goes on and on. Statues all over the place just to be there. The fan base will flock to that for sure. It'll be all sorts of cool. Yeah.
So have BYU and the Big 12 help fill that hole in the schedule that USC's created until USC comes to their senses and then they get a new coach and they want it back.
If you're recruiting a kid for USC, which I think happens, hey, you know what they are? They're you-know-whats. They don't even want to play Notre Dame.
Scared is the G-rated version.
That's not the way I was thinking.
I know, but you're on the radio, so just go with scared. People can substitute their own word. They can figure it out.
We'll play them. Yeah, we're going to play Notre Dame.
Quoting any coaches now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not afraid. It's too tough. And they can't go back there. You're SC. John McKay, John Robinson, Paul Hackett, they're all rolling over in their graves.
Paul Hackett. Howard Jones, John McKay,
Larry Smith,
Pete Carroll, all rolling over in their graves. Wait, Pete's alive.
Yeah. Are you breaking some news there real quick?
That you did not want to play
Paul
these
Hackett,
guys.
that was good. That was a difficult time. Hey, we got a good team. We're 8-4. You know whose name?
But I was there.
Yeah, I know. I know why you went there. Yeah. Were you there for Larry Smith?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of 7-5s and 8-4s. That was San Diego State's chance to beat USC.
They were glorious.
Let them off the hook.
I loved it.
Twice. Tied them once and lost by 2 another time. Beat them.
What are you, Dennis Green?
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Green took heat for that. I don't understand it. I thought that was awesome.
Because it was a rant.
It was a rant, but it was like real emotions, how he really felt. He didn't take personal shots.
Yeah, but it was a rant and a loss.
Crazy.
Dan Hawkins, wasn't he right?
We let him off the hook.
But when you have rants.
Go play intramurals, brother. It was so condescending. Like you're explaining to me how sports work. I didn't like that one as much. This is just about the winning and the losing.
I absolutely loved it.
No, the winning and losing.
It's a Big 12. No, come on, man. That was awesome.
Maybe it's because I think Denny Green was a much better coach. And maybe so that's why I like it.
It's Division I football.
It just sounds cartoonish.
It's the Big 12.
I don't mind that you play it. I love you playing the cartoons. But I'm just saying as rants go, that's too cartoonish. Dennis Green was more real.
If I'm Brett Yormark, every conference title game, I play that.
It's on the big screen before the game.
Yes.
Get the crowd on their feet. Get the music going.
Yes.
If you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
Don't you crown their head, though?
Yeah, but
in
his case, you're going to go further down the.
That was. Now the question is, where do you put you play to win the game in the middle of those two? Does it go somewhere in the middle? In my mind, it goes in the middle. I don't know how close.
Actually, that can go to hell.
Well, I knew because you got a personal tie with Arizona State, and you're like, dude.
Come on.
The only cool thing is that the whole thing fell apart in this era because it can be fixed quickly in this era. It could not be fixed
by the right guy.
Quickly. Right. And you got the right guy, and it got fixed quickly. The last year of that regime, that was awful by any measure. And the first year was awful, and then boom, conference title. Excellent.
Can't ask for more.
Would you trade 2 bad years for a conference title going forward?
Oh, yeah.
See? There you go.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's bad when you're in it and you don't know the payoff's coming, but when the payoff comes.
Well, it's just that you cheated and you stole money and blah, 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 and you're a phony.
Yeah.
I hate phonies.
Yeah.
At least be real. Dennis Green was being real.
Yes.
Hawkins was being real. Be real.
A little performative with Hawkins. That's why I downgraded.
But because he knew his job was on the line
and
it was a dangerous situation. Things were slipping away. Things happen. It's why Jim Boylan went after Gordon, because he knew it was slipping away.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, this topic is as old as time, older than this show, and good grief, we're past 24 years now. But this has been a topic for, carry the one, but 30 years. And progress is being made, PK. It's an imperfect science, but progress is being made. We will get to that next. Stay with us.
I see you to show up. Don't come here once every 2 years and ask those questions. I don't want to hear that from you.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life sleep.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.